What's going on, guys? Vulkan here, and today we're talking about New World, an upcoming MMORPG from Amazon Studios that's been in development for quite some time. Now, I've been following New World since its reveal a few years ago, and it's been really kind of an interesting roller coaster for me personally, because at first New World was aimed more as a survival game, complete with hunger, thirst, shelter, all that fun stuff. And it really killed my interest in the game because I'm just not a huge fan of survival games. I'm not. I'm terrible at them. I don't like managing it. It's just not my cup of tea. So I completely skipped it. And apparently so did a lot of other people because they completely changed their approach, dropped all the survival elements, and changed it into more of an MMO. Now, after the change, I was back on board, right? So I saw it and was just all about it. I was excited to see the new stuff, and because of the recent blog posts and the info drops about the game that they put out on Twitter, on their main page, it's become one of my most anticipated games of 2020. I am excited to see this game release because I'm just liking more and more and more of it. They brought in some fantasy elements, whereas the original one was more of a realism style game. So I'm a big fantasy guy, as you guys know, and this really hit the nail on the head for me personally. So why? What really did they release? What did they talk about that kind of threw this thing back into the mix for me? Well, first and foremost, it was corrupted breaches. Now, corrupted breaches, these are like rifts from the game Rift. You guys remember the MMO Rift, but these come with kind of this new worldian twist, right? So breaches are going to appear across zones and slowly become more and more powerful, and more of them will appear if no one deals with them. So it's like a bad disease. If you don't go out and kind of take care of it, then it's only going to get worse. And these breaches are guarded by cultists and something called an acolyte of corruption. That's similar to basically a Rift boss on steroids. So these creatures travel fast, they deal massive amounts of damage, they're able to shoot like lightning bolts, they're able to summon these orbs of corruption that explode and just wipe things out, and they're just nasty creatures to deal with. But breaches do vary in size and difficulty, so taking them down can either be done solo, or some may require a group of players because they're just too difficult, there's too many enemies, all that fun stuff. But in order to close a breach, so you find this breach, you go up to it, and you're killing things. In order to close it, you have to clear out all of the enemies protecting the heart of the breach. Then you have to use an Azoth-infused staff to seal the breach. And Azoth is like this mysterious material that has drawn kind of every living thing to the island, including you, the player. The most recent trailer they put out for the game kind of shows this off a little bit, as you see all of these different, like the Roman soldiers showed up, then you see like the colonists that are there, and you see like the different kind of creatures that are all interacting together, and they all have this like either red or blue glow. That's like Azoth and corruption. So those two are kind of always battling. So why do you want to close a breach? Like, what's the purpose? Do you get loot? What do you get? Well, closing a breach will actually give you some unique materials that cannot be found anywhere else. And these materials can be crafted into some of the most powerful gear out there. But breaches do not stay closed forever, and they'll become more and more powerful over time. So as they continue to reopen, as you grow stronger as a character, they're going to grow stronger with you. So they will scale. It's not going to be like, hey, this entry zone that I was in, those rifts are weak. They're only level 10 rifts and I'm a level 60. This is going to be level 60 rifts wherever you are because you are level 60. So that was something that got me really pumped, right? I saw that and I immediately thought of Rift, and I loved that system in Rift that made things interesting, it made things fun. It really brought the whole zone together, which was really cool. A big like greater rift or raid rift would spawn, and you'd see everyone talking in chat and just kind of all running towards this rift invasion and the rift boss, and working together as a team in order to kill this thing. So I'm really looking forward to doing that and taking those things on. Now, the second thing I'm stoked about is War, which is a PvP mode where other players kind of invade your territory and engage in a 50 versus 50 battle where the winner claims that territory for themselves. Okay, so confession time, I'm not a big PvP player when it comes to MMOs. I am terrible at PvP in MMOs. My PvP stuff relies on like FPS. I'm really good at those shooters. I can do that all day. But when it comes to like World of Warcraft, ESO, WildStar was the only one that I was actually somewhat decent at. But PvP and MMOs, I'm just bad because there's just so much going on and I'm just clicking things. It's just terrible. But anyway, looking at War in New World, looks extremely exciting because the whole process of it is interesting. What you do is if you want to capture some territory, you want to expand your kingdom, then you pick out what piece of territory you would like to go capture, and you weaken that piece of territory by completing faction missions, other objectives. Once that territory is weakened, then you can declare war on that territory. And this is where factions come into play. There are 3 factions: Covenant, Syndicate, and Marauders. Now the Covenant are like fanatics that want to cleanse the land of like heretics and defilers. Basically, they're the Holy Inquisition. You have the Syndicate. They're extremely secretive. They're always looking for forbidden knowledge, basically the Illuminati. And then you have Marauders, and they're like this militia that are hell-bent on establishing a nation where kind of strength trumps all. So if you're strong enough to take something, then take it because it's rightfully yours. You were not strong enough to defend it. I was strong enough to take it. Therefore, it is mine. So you have all these factions that are kind of going for different things, but they're obviously causing some friction and rubbing up against each other. Now, as a player, you're going to choose a faction and ally yourself with that faction. And then at that point, that's when war comes into play because you're a piece of that faction. So if the Covenant declare war on the Syndicate because the Covenant want to take a piece of territory that the Syndicate owns, then you're going to war. Now, the way this works is when you declare war, you have to fill up a roster of 50 players. And if you aren't able to gather 50 total players because, let's say, you have a small community, something like that, then you can take volunteers from the 3rd neutral faction during this battle. So if you have the Syndicate faction, right, taking on the Covenant faction, then you could go take volunteers from the Marauders if they would like to participate, right? You can't just say, hey, you're being voluntold, I'm pulling you into my team. They have to queue up for it, and they have to kind of go through this whole process, I'm assuming. So they're neutral during this time, but they can choose what side they want to go on. Now, the battle itself is pretty much straightforward. You have this territory, and you have to capture rally points at certain segments during your battle. So you move forward, you capture a rally point, you capture another rally point, another rally point. Now, these rally points serve as respawn points. So the front line that you're pushing up on or you're defending against continues moving forward, and you have to either defend those points or capture them. If you're defending and the attackers capture all the rally points, then you have to defend your fort. If they manage to capture your fort, then that means they get to take over your claim. That territory is now theirs, and there's nothing you can do about it until you weaken that territory and attempt to take it back. Now, during this whole battle, you can acquire things called battle tokens, and these battle tokens you can use to purchase siege weapons and siege platforms to either defend or attack against the fort that you're trying to take. And siege weapons are things like cannons, fire launchers, repeaters, ballistas, explosive cannons, fire droppers. So you got like the big pot of like molten nonsense and you're dumping it over the side onto people that are trying to siege the gates, stuff like that. You have the Horn of Resilience, which looks like the Yaller horn. It gives defensive and healing buffs to all allies that are within earshot. So once again, buffing all of your people that are either defending or attacking. So there's a lot of kind of really cool stuff that goes into this, and it feels like they took solid elements from a lot of other MMOs and molded them into their own kind of creation. So war looks pretty cool. I'm excited for that. You know, not being a big PvP person, seeing that, it takes a lot to win me over to want to do PvP, something I'm terrible at. But reading this really kind of got me into the mindset for it, so I'm excited. So let's move on to the last thing. What is the last kind of key thing that truly pulled me back into the game? And that was the most recent reveal of arenas, where a group of players takes on a world boss for legendary loot. It's just kind of a mono-e-mono type of deal. And the one they revealed was the Spriggan, which is interesting. It doesn't sound very intimidating. You think of like a Spriggan like Groot, basically, right? And I mean, Groot's pretty terrifying, so maybe I need to take that back. Anyway, but they're pretty confident, the developers are pretty confident that's going to ruin your career and really, really give players a hard time. The thing that makes these arenas so interesting is that they're only accessible after looting a key found randomly in the world and then finding the gate to place that key, which then opens a portal that takes you to the arena. Now, the way this works is if you're partied up, then you put the key in, you turn it, it's going to immediately transfer you and anyone around you in your party to that arena to begin fighting. The devs said two things. One, make sure all your equipment is repaired. You have any potions or buffs and food buffs that you need to have, because once you're in, you're in. And once you basically enter that arena, it's game on. There's no like monologuing, there's no like wind up. It is you drop in, the Spriggan is coming at you, looking to tear your face off. So you need to be able to be prepared and be ready. The second thing they talked about is group composition. You want to make sure you have a tank, melee DPS, range DPS, and a healer. You want kind of a dungeon crew in order to take on the Spriggan, because there's going to be a lot kind of going on that you need to be prepared for. So like I said, once inside, you will have a certain time frame to slay the Spriggan and collect your loot. This is a timed encounter. You can't sit there and just kind of hit him with a wet noodle for 4 hours and he dies and you collect the good stuff. That's not how this is going to go. Basically, if you die or you run out of time, that's it. The key is wasted. You're kicked out. Go find another key before you can attempt it again. Now, we don't know the drop rate of the keys. Are they going to be just uber rare? Are they going to be somewhat rare, kind of uncommon? We don't know yet, but it is something that I am very excited about. I like this style of system. It gives you something to look for in the world. It's not a UI type of thing. It's not like I need to fire up an interface and then click on a, make group button and then go somewhere. They said it is a key. You take the key, you find the area, you plug it in, it works. And it also kind of creates that sense of anticipation, when you're going to fight a difficult boss, like a progression boss. It's like heading to a boxing match. You know it's going to be tough, you know you're going to get hurt, but the reward is just too good to pass up. You gotta do it. I gotta have it. And that's kind of the thing that I'm really seeing here with this arena. Now, I do hope there are other arenas, because right now they just talked about the Spriggan, but I want them to expand on this idea. I want to see other notable kind of creatures from lore and get thrown into arenas. And then players find those keys, they go in and they fight them for some themed loot. I would love that. It gives that kind of collection mentality. You can go continue fighting him, get some pieces of gear. Before you know it, you have the whole Spriggan set. And then maybe you fight like a Minotaur, you have the whole Minotaur set. So all of this kind of stuff looks very, very interesting and really pulled me back into the game. So these top 3 things, corrupted breaches, war, and arenas, really kind of won me over in terms of New World is going to be a contender. I didn't buy into the hype when a lot of people were saying, New World's going to be the next big thing. It's going to be the next big MMO. Do I think it will be? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be, the next World of Warcraft. That's a ghost. You can't chase that ghost. But I do think it's going to carve out its own niche. I do think it's going to be a popular game. I think it's going to be about the size of ESO. And it's going to be alive for a very long period of time. I do think it's going to be a rocky launch, and they'll eventually kind of smooth things out, but that's how MMOs go nowadays anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, before we wrap this one up, there are some other things that I definitely want to go into and have some deep dive videos on in terms of New World. Those will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and there will be an everything you need to know video at the end of this month to kind of cap this off. Now, there's some key questions that I know a lot of you guys are going to have. Here they are. New World is entering beta in July. They did not give a specific date, but if you pre-order, you will get beta access, and that will be, once again, in July. The game itself will be releasing August 25th, so roughly 3 months from now, we'll be looking down the barrel at release. This is an MMORPG that features PvP, PvE, housing, a deep crafting system and exploration, and a classless system. So that's what we have so far, guys. I can't wait to share more New World content with you, but let's get to talking in the comment section below. What do you guys think about New World so far? Have you guys been following it? Do you not care? I want to hear from you, so let's get to talking downstairs. As always, guys, thank you so much for the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.